What's up, everybody? Welcome to thefamilydeal.com 7 Sports Cave. I'm your host, Justin Rose. On tonight's show, Neil Rule is here. Detroit Sports Commission stops by. Zenith helmets are here. We've got a lot of guests coming up in studio, so let's get right to what went on today. The Big Ten regular season is in that home stretch. A week from today, the dust will finally settle. And after one of the craziest seasons in recent memory, a conference champion or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, they'll figure it out and be crowned. For teams like Ohio State and Michigan, though, they won't be raising a banner for the regular season title, but every win is crucial for that Big Ten tournament and NCAA seeding. Basketball, as we all know, is a game of runs. This one today in Columbus was a perfect example of that. Ohio State went first, a 10-0 run. Dwayne Washington's 3 got them there. Now, Michigan was down by 7. They trailed by 3 at the half. Wolverines, though, they came out and went on a run of their own. A 9-0 run as Franz Wagner gets the offensive board and stuns the Buckeye fans down in Columbus. They come within 4. The game was tied with about 7:58 to go, but Caleb Wesson was brilliant down the stretch. The Wolverines, they couldn't answer him or anyone for that matter. The Buckeyes outscore the Wolverines 23-9 in the final 8 minutes of the game. All 5 Buckeye starters were in double digits. The final score really not indicative of how close of a game this was. Ohio State wins it 77-63.
We don't go into a hole and start hiding. We don't ask for a pity party. Our main objective is to figure out solutions and see how we can get better. I trust that we'll get back on track. We're going to have 2 good practices before we play on Thursday. That practice, sure enough, will be film on where we can learn and see what areas and how we can protect the three-point line a lot better than what we have the last 2 games.
Now the Pistons, meanwhile, wrapping up a 4-game West Coast road trip where Dwayne Casey had been playing his young players plenty. It'll be interesting to see when and if Luke Kennard returns. He's been out since late December, but was rumored to be coming back around the All-Star break. He was still out once again tonight. Missed the whole road trip as well. Pistons taking on the Kings. They came out on fire in the first quarter. Derrick Rose scored 8 of the team's first 18 points. The Pistons jumped out to an 18-1 lead. But while the Pistons were enjoying that lead in the second quarter, Rose lands awkwardly on his ankle. He left the game, did not return, diagnosed a sprained ankle. Afterwards, they said it wasn't too bad, but they will see. However, his departure spelled doom for Detroit. Kings outscored the Pistons by 21 the rest of the way. De'Aaron Fox, he led them with 23. The Pistons limp home, winning just 1 game of the 4 out west, 106-100 the final from Sacramento.
Everything kind of went out when that first unit went out, and I wish they could play 48 minutes, but they can't. So we had to sub and get fresh bodies in there, and that's the mark of young players being ready to go and play when you come into the game. And then because once you lose that momentum after that big lead, it's hard to get it back or sustain it.
Bad news for Red Wings forward Filip Zadina, as Max Bultman from The Athletic is reporting he will not be able to be sent back to Grand Rapids for their playoff run due to the injury that he suffered that's kept him sidelined for the past month. Now, the goal, of course, was to let the eligible young players gain playoff hockey experience back with Grand Rapids throughout their Calder Cup run. Zadina, not a part of that. Tigers taking on the Yankees once again in spring training action down in the warm weather. Spencer Turnbull, he got the call on the bump today. He struck out 3 batters in 3 innings of work, gave up just a single hit and did some fancy defensive leather work here, turning the double play. How about that? Bats came alive today. Dawel Lugo, he knocks a single to score Jonathan Scope. And the Tigers score 10 runs off 8 hits. They win this one 10-4. Well, it was Kirk Cousins that once said that champions are built on 1,000 invisible mornings. The behind-the-scenes work and preparation that young athletes devote these days is pretty astonishing. West Bloomfield rising star Donovan Edwards is a prime example of that. He's the top running back prospect in the country for next season, and lately West Bloomfield High School has been a turnstile for some of the biggest names in college football. It's not often I can stump West Bloomfield head coach Ron Bellamy.
That's a tough one. Maybe Drew Henson.
The question was, who was the last recruit from the state of Michigan generating as much buzz as Donovan Edwards is?
This kid has star written all over him.
A kid like Donovan, he wants more, and he pushes you as a coach to give him more.
I think it's going to be special going to a new place to live in the next 3-4 years. So I feel like it's going to be an adventure for me to take.
The halls of West Bloomfield have become a rotating door of the who's who of college football. From Nick Saban to Mark D'Antonio, Brian Kelly to Josh Gaddis, and plenty of other coaches from the Pacific to the Atlantic, all stopping by trying to make an impression on the five-star running back who didn't always feel this type of love.
It was like times I texted Coach Bill, like, why am I not getting so-and-so? And it's like, just be patient. So I just remained patient, and it's like everything is coming at me so quick now. It's a blessing.
But these coaches aren't just visiting for Edwards. The Lakers are on the map as a fertile recruiting ground stocked with not only talent on the football field, but off of it. Edwards was the first to point that out.
Building a legacy here was Bloomfield. You know, it's not just about me. It's about, you know, the people who I'm playing with, the people who's in this weight room with me every single day. That's what it's mainly about.
Everyone has a home, and that's our goal, is to find a home for each kid, and we want to provide opportunities.
Quite the talent factory out there. Ron Bellamy, of course, always welcomes me with open arms when I come to visit and check out what they've got going on with the Lakers football program. Plenty of good things for Edwards in his future as well. It'll be interesting to see where he decides to take his talents. All right, coming up next, we're going back to college basketball. Neil Rule, the voice of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, the golden voice of Neil Rule. We'll be back just after this statement. Welcome back to the FamilyDeal.com 7 Sports Cave. Happy to be joined by my main guy here, Neil Rule, the Golden Pipes of the Golden Grizzlies. Of course, you can always hear him on TV 20, our sister station, when they have home games at the arena. Speaking of the arena, it's going to be bopping on Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, that's right. March Madness starts, I guess, for the state of Michigan at the arena.
We got, who do they got? Cleveland State?
Yep.
So there's a new tournament. Remember, we had Motor City Madness for the past couple of years down at Little Caesars Arena. That is now shifted to Indianapolis. They're playing at the
Indiana Farmers Coliseum.
But the first two rounds of the Horizon League tournament are on home campus sites. Oakland qualified to host at least the first game there, correct?
At least the first game, that's right. So Cleveland State will be here Tuesday, 7 o'clock tip at the arena. Should be lit, right?
If you're not doing anything, get out there. I mean, Greg Campy, he'll, buy you a coney or something afterwards.
He will probably eat it from you.
He probably would. Let's talk a little bit about the craziness that is college basketball this year as a whole. We're going to get into the Big Ten here, but at the same time, I mean, 3 top 10 teams lose over the weekend, and it just seems like if there's a year that you want to pick a 7 seed to go to the Final Four, an 8 seed to go to the Final Four, I mean, this is the year.
The underdogs have been barking for a long time. There's no question about it. And you're seeing the nature, and look at Dayton, too, as a quote-unquote mid-major. Nothing mid-major about them, though. I mean, They have just as good a chance as anyone. They have the whole formula. So when you look at what's been going on around college basketball, that gap is as razor thin as it's ever been.
I mean, how important, and it almost seems like a silly question, but how important are the losses that happen over the next final week here in the regular season in tournament play? Now, granted, smaller leagues like the Horizon, the one-bid league, you got to win to get in, but at the same time, I'm talking maybe more of the Big Ten and whatnot. I mean, losses right now don't necessarily kill you. They don't help you, but they don't kill, unless you're on the bubble.
Well, they don't kill you, but they hurt your perception, I guess you would say, because there's a lot of recency bias. I mean, not just in college basketball, but in all sports. That's a new term that I've learned on social media. Recency bias. But there is a lot of that, though. That can bump you from a 3-seed line to a 4-seed line, maybe a 5-seed line, that dangerous 5-seed where you get that powerful mid-major 12-seed in there. So, I mean, yeah, you want to be playing well coming down the stretch, because this will be weighted more than your wins in November, more than your wins in December are.
Well, and Michigan State, we'll start with them. I mean, recency bias would tell me that Michigan State's playing like the preseason top team, not maybe number 1 overall, but a top team with their last 2 wins on the road, against Iowa at home, and then of course beating Maryland on the road. I mean, those are 2 really good quad 1 wins. Are the Spartans the team? They may not win the regular season, but are the Spartans the team that you would bet on in the NCAA tournament?
If I'm talking Big Ten teams, yes, and here's why: because Rocket Watts, the freshman straw that stirs a drink, because what he brings to the party is a guy that can get shots, doesn't need a ton of screens to do it. He can go get his own shots, and he's a guy that can have an impact on a basketball game. That's a bit of a wild card, and I think especially what you saw in that Maryland game, Tom Izzo trusts him more and more and more as it goes on, and he's delivering, and he'll be the guy for Michigan State. And look, we all know Cassius. We all know the usual suspects for Michigan State, but Rocket Watts, I think, is the wild card for Michigan State. If they go back to the Final Four again, because they always go all the time. If they do, Rocket Watts will play a big part in that.
Malik Hall, too. Can't be,
Right.
said enough. I mean, the impact he's had when he's decided to play grown man basketball and not look like a freshman. I mean, his impact in the first, 5 minutes of that Maryland game, he scores 6 points, but he grabs rebounds. He defends well. He eats up some fouls, so Tillman's not always, the one who's, giving the fouls away. So I look at him as a guy. Well, who else in the Big Ten would you hitch your cart to?
I mean, if you're talking about contention for a national title, I don't really know that I have anybody else. And look, everybody, calm down. Just give me 2 seconds here, okay? Look, I know everybody wants to say the Big Ten should have 10 teams or 11 teams in, and that's fine, if you want to make that case. But you look at what happened with Michigan today. I mean, the bottom line is they're tied for 9th in the Big Ten. They're 500
That's
in the
how
Big
good
Ten.
the league is.
Okay, but I mean, I just don't see that top end that's a national title threat. I mean, when you boil it all down, Justin, when you're filling out your bracket and it comes down to Kansas or Baylor or Duke, you taking Maryland over those guys? The answer is no.
Well, when you're talking, now hang on a second here. Don't put words in my mouth, Neil.
Okay, well,
it's
just
very,
answering
it's
the question.
very, very.
Well, look, you have a palatial.
my point
you have
is-
a palatial estate in Royal Oak. If you have to make that choice for the mortgage payment for your palatial estate in Royal Oak,
Palatial.
let me tell you who you're taking. It won't be Maryland.
It depends on a lot of factors, because I do think that Maryland has the pieces, and it all is about riding that hot streak and getting hot at the right time. I mean, Maryland looked unbeatable 2 weeks ago. They could refine it. Michigan played the best basketball analytically. That is not my thought or feeling.
Okay.
Analytically, in the month of February, no team was more efficient offensively than the University of Michigan was. That stopped for the last 8 minutes a game against Ohio State. I mean, they were tied with 8 minutes to go. So they can catch fire again in a tournament-style format. I look at Iowa as a team that can be sneaky good. Look, I'm telling you, I think there's at least 4 teams in the Sweet 16 from the Big Ten.
Let's talk about all those big Iowa wins that we've seen in the tournament over the last decade.
It's very true.
Big wins for Iowa. There was
There was none.
Now wait a minute. There was.
They've never been to the Sweet 16.
Oh,
under
that's right.
McCaffrey.
Okay.
Yeah. My point is that the league is very deep. I mean, Illinois is another team. Good guard play. They got good bigs. They can do some damage too. So to not give the Big Ten enough credit, because I do think it's the deepest and most talented league in all of college basketball. But you're right. When you're going to go up against the best teams from the Big 12, just 2 of them, only 2 teams from the Big 12 scare anybody.
Sure.
What, 1 team from the SEC, and that's Kentucky. Duke has been losing lately, so they look very beatable. Everybody looks beatable. I really like Dayton, though. That's the team
I do too. And look at that. We went through all this and we kind of met up in the middle right there. That's where I am. I'm big on Dayton this year too. I mean, you have that mix that we talk about, and most importantly, because usually when we bring up these Power 5 teams, what do we talk about? Lottery picks and NBA guys.
They got one.
Dayton has that. I mean, they have the exact formula you need to win in March.
It's going to be really interesting, because they're obviously going to get in if they don't win the Atlantic 10, because they're an at-large bid, being as good as they are. But at the same time, the Horizon League, I mean, look, I'd be thrilled if Oakland could make a run and win it. This kind of expands on the craziness of college basketball this year. How many leagues do you think are going to have an upset winner in the tournament play from the mid-majors?
Probably a lot. Probably a lot. And that will play a part in the Power 5. Now, look, I'm a mid-major guy, work in a mid-major institution. It's weird how those Power 5s always seem to find their way into the tournament when you talk about chopping up all that money. It's really weird how that always works out. But I think this year, though, you will see that, especially in the mid-major level, because more and more you see these teams that pop up, they steal a bid from somebody in a mid-major conference, and that's the same thing. I mean, if you go in today's day and age of college basketball, it's better off for Dayton in the Atlantic 10 that they don't win, that maybe a wild card from the Atlantic 10 does get in, because the bottom line is you cash extra checks if that happens. Dayton's in anyway, and they're going to be a factor no matter what. So, hey, man, make your slice of the pie bigger.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Am I going to have you back on before the national championship?
Yeah, we can do that, man.
Okay.
Anytime.
All right. I'm going to have
You're
you
my
on.
guy, J-Ro.
I'm not going to ask you who your national champ is yet then. We will get to that very soon.
All
How
right,
about
fair
that?
enough.
Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right, bud. Thanks for coming in that big ring you have on your finger. That's cute. Coming up next, the Prep Kickoff Classic, the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic. It's coming back, 16th year. We'll talk to the guys in charge of making it happen. Coming up next here on 7 Sports Cave. Stay with us. Welcome back to the FamilyDeal.com 7 Sports Cave. Happy to have Ryan Sullivan of Zenith helmets, and Marty Doback from the Detroit Sports Commission in today, because we're talking about high school football, if you can believe it. High school basketball kind of getting started with the regionals and the districts and whatnot in the next couple of weeks. But here we are, the Prep Kickoff Classic. Marty, this is what, the 7 millionth year for it now? I mean, it's been going on, but it's been a great time.
It's 16th annual.
That's the one.
Yeah.
But for 16 years, you've brought teams from all over the state and out of the state to play one another, kind of a kicking off the football season here in the state of Michigan, and the slate this year looks as good as ever.
No, appreciate you having us on, Justin, and every year you guys give us great publicity with the event and highlighting the showcase, and this year we're really excited with the lineup that we have. We got 2 new teams involved this year. We have a pretty interesting matchup with Chippewa Valley and Detroit Catholic Central, which will be the first time that they're playing since 2003.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a long time for that one. And then our marquee game, I think, on Saturday is River Rouge and Muskegon Mona Shores, which are defending Division III, Division II state champions, respectively. So that was a game that we inked all the way back in October. Our scheduling process is a year-long process, and we're talking, right when the event gets over the year before, and looking towards next year.
Now, from a Zenith perspective, Ryan, obviously you guys have the great helmets that you guys help with the PSL, and it's starting to trickle out into other places that are starting to see them. We all know Antonio Brown wore it for about 48 hours, but from your perspective, this event, I mean, how cool is it to see a lot of the schools that you sponsor go out there and continue to support great high schools?
Absolutely. We're really proud to be a Detroit-based company, so this event being the kickoff weekend for high school football in the entire state of Michigan, in our hometown, it's a lot of pride for us to be the brand name sponsor to support this event in the local community. This event attracts a number of great teams from all across the state of Michigan and even out of the state at times. So to be associated with this event, which, as Marty said, has been around for now 16 years, is something that we're really proud of as an organization. And there's nothing like putting in a whole hard year of work than being out there the first weekend and seeing your product out on the field. It's something our entire team is really excited about.
You guys talk about the scheduling aspect, but getting teams is not difficult. I'm assuming you have to probably tell teams no, because you can only have so many games over the 3 days.
Well, certainly. The demand is definitely there, and we're hearing from schools throughout the year. I mean, I've heard from a couple schools already for 2021. So definitely the demand is there, and we welcome each and every year new schools. We want schools to reach out and be a part of the Classic, and for the most part, it's a great celebration of football in Detroit and the state of Michigan.
Yeah, I got to ask you this. You guys have been busy, the Detroit Sports Commission. We know that Western Michigan, Central Michigan are now playing at Ford Field. You guys had a hand in making that happen, but we got the Frozen Four coming up at the middle of the next month. I mean, how busy has it been? Plus, you guys got this thing you're trying to plan, well in advance.
Well, definitely, and we're really aggressive with our work plan right now, and securing and hosting NCAA championships. In addition to the Frozen Four, we have the fencing championships coming up here in probably about 20 days. We have the NCAA Women's Bowling Championship coming up as well, which are the same dates as the Frozen Four. So really, we are being super busy and aggressive with executing these events and making sure they go off in Detroit well.
And Ryan, I have to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, but it is the off season. How much are you guys, with the combine going on right now, the draft is coming up here relatively soon, how much are you guys out selling your product as well? Because that's obviously the next step.
Yeah, it's a critically important time of year for us. We're really excited to have just announced 2 major product introductions for us. Zenith Loop, a non-tackle, so think 7-on-7 and flag football headgear, which we launched back in November. And then our flagship product launch for this year, 2020, being our Shadow XR helmet, the next generation of our helmet for both youth and varsity athletes. That helmet debuted at #1 and #2 on the Virginia Tech study, depending on if you're looking at youth or varsity models. So all of those products proudly developed and designed right here in Detroit and bringing them to a worldwide audience. It's a really exciting time to be at Zenith.
I have to imagine the feedback that you guys are getting, because you're keeping football alive. I mean, at the basis of it, you may not think about it every single day that way, but in reality, more and more parents are keeping their kids from playing football because of the health and brain injury concerns. You guys are on the forefront of making sure that it's a safer game.
Well, there's a lot of things that are working together to make the game better, ultimately, at the end of the day, whether it's rule changes, practice changes, healthcare, and so forth, along with better equipment. And we're really proud to play our part in that equation. But there's a lot of forces for good, active and alive within the sport overall to advance the game. And it's never been more popular than it is now. When you look at the sport of football, both tackle, which is what most people think of when they think of football, but also non-tackle, flag and 7-on-7, there's more people playing football today than ever before. And look at things like women playing the game, especially on the flag side of things, in greater numbers than ever. So there's a lot of really good things going on with the sport of football. And at Zenith, we put the athlete first and at the center of everything that we do. And we want to be with them throughout their experience with the sport, whether it's flag, 7-on-7, or tackle. So it's an exciting time to be in the sport overall.
Well, thank you for your continued sponsorship of the Prep Kickoff Classic. Of course, we're going to have coaches and some of the players on months from now. I almost said years because it's going to feel like that, because we're already talking about football. We haven't talked enough about golf yet. And I'll do that coming up next here on the 7 Sports Cave. We'll take a quick break and be back here in a second. Well, we certainly haven't talked enough about golf season yet. Yeah, it's the 1st of March, and I'm probably about 2 months ahead of myself. But there's no time like the present to start thinking about warm weather, golf. That's why next Saturday from 12 to 2 at the location on Telegraph Road at Carl's Golfland, they'll be doing their demo days. You've probably seen the ads for it during this show and whatnot. But I'll be out there for 2 hours from 12 to 2, kind of just hanging out. We're going to be signing people up for the CS Mott Children's Hospital Odyssey Putting Challenge that's going to be later on this spring. You can have a chance to win $500,000 for yourself and $500,000 for the Children's Hospital. So come on out, try some new clubs, hit some stuff you haven't hit before, and hang out with me. Not a bad idea for a fun Saturday. Hopefully it'll be nice and warm. The commercial to see more about this is coming up right now. Until then, we'll see you in a couple weeks.